So, with the 2025 NFL draft now behind us, we have a new year of prospects and a new year of speculation as to what is going to happen from now to the moment that the next mock draft comes. And with that, last year we had James Pierce Jr. going top three. We have some prospects in this one that could possibly fall as well if they don't end up having the season that we expect. But that's what these mock drafts are all about. We're looking at what we know and we're looking at what we can see as of right now for their potential in the future. And these teams at the top are obviously fluid. I'll try to pick for their needs, but if BPA or best player available is the best case scenario for them, I'm going to go with that as well. Just like I try to do with any mock draft. I don't try to pick the wrong player for these teams and just pick the best player if it just doesn't make sense. But getting into this draft, the New York Giants are number one on the clock. And, I mean, they traded up into the first round to get Jackson Dart. And they were able to get Abdul Carter on the team. Now, again, I said this in the mock draft on the day of the draft. If they do that, I can imagine that at the trade deadline, they would possibly move on from Kayvon Thibodeaux. But that's still up for speculation as well. But they got their superstar edge rusher in Abdul Carter, who plays outside linebacker mostly, so that leaves some space for defensive end. But we have a new quarterback in town for them. While more of the surprise was Shedeur not being the one that they picked with trading into the first round, because when everybody saw it, they're like, oh, okay, Shedeur's going to New York, and then Jackson Dart is the name being called. I think even if the Giants are in a position that they could go with Arch Manning, the investment that they put in to get back into the first round, I just don't see them doing that. I don't see them pursuing Arch Manning as much as it would be a good thing if he ends up having the season that we expect from him. But the best pick here for them would be to get TJ Parker. And I'm still expecting them to go with this pick regardless whether it's Parker or any other possible edge rusher that we may see pop up. But as of right now, we have seen the most out of TJ Parker in this class at that position, and he just has the most power that I've seen from a player coming off the edge in this class. He has probably the most effortless power that I've seen at all in my time of doing this. I mean, Abdul Carter had basically everything, and he had the movement, he had all that type of stuff. But I could see a possibility of either getting Proctor at tackle or going with edge. They could get someone like, I forgot his name now, Francis from Miami. I am not going to try to say his last name right now. I need to get back into the motion of learning these names. But I like TJ Parker because I expect him to move on from Kayvon Thibodeaux. You keep this unit of edge rushers very solid and very good. My only issue with Parker is that he seems to rely very heavily on his God-given power and speed, because he has insane speed coming off of the edge. I want to see him have some more moves. I want to see him be able to add some more to his bag, but again, hopefully the season shows something different than what we're already seeing from TJ Parker. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that and have the first Clemson player come off the board. And pick number 2 is going to be Caleb Downs. I understand that Arch Manning is here, and I've seen every mock draft under the sun be Arch Manning to the Browns, if anything, if they're the number 1 or number 2 pick. Why are they going to go with Arch Manning when they just drafted 2 rookie quarterbacks, and one that's probably going to be a backup for the foreseeable future, and the other one that we could expect him to be a starter at some point whenever Deshaun Watson is out of there, whenever Joe Flacco's out of there, whenever Kenny Pickett's out of there. You have Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for the foreseeable future, and I just can't see them going with Arch Manning. And it's not like I don't see a possibility of him going top 3. His talent should be number 1 pick regardless, and I think at the time of the draft, there is going to be a trade if it's one of these 3 teams at the top, because I don't think any of them are going to go with quarterback. They could get a haul for that pick so another team could secure a quarterback. But I'm just going to keep this with the draft order that it is and pick with what it is. But the Browns are going to have a significant amount of expiring contracts on their roster, and especially on the defensive side with their defensive backs. I think they need to focus on that, and especially with the guy that has been my favorite prospect, and especially safety, in my time of doing these drafts. I mean, Malachi Starks was a guy that I was very high on, and now he's going to be a Raven, which is insane to me. Caleb Downs is a hawk in the pass game and in the run game. He reads it at an insane rate, and when you need him to make a big play, he's going to do it. He just reads the run at an incomparable rate, and I've never seen somebody be able to jump the run as he does. But I expect him to be so much better this year. Knowing that he is going to be drafted this year, I expect him to be even better and stand out for Ohio State even more now that they've lost some key captain pieces, key leadership pieces. He's going to have to step up and be that leader. He also has the hit power for someone that can translate to the league, and that's a big thing for a lot of these guys in terms of the safeties being able to translate in that aspect. And I think the Browns will be salivating at the sight of being able to draft a player like Caleb Downs at his magnitude. Barring an atrocious season this season, I see him going top 5 without a doubt in my mind. I love Caleb Downs, and I think he could even be a number 1 pick, if anything. I think it would be Caleb Downs and Arch Manning whenever it comes down to the actual draft itself. And with the Tennessee Titans at number 3, they went Cam Ward in this draft, and I'm glad they did. I love Cam Ward. Obviously, I'm a UM fan. But just as a, I guess, analytical site of a QB, he was the clear number 1 choice, especially with a team that needs a QB. I did have some sort of hope that they were going to go with a legitimate investment in Abdul Carter in terms of as a team, because they could have tried to give Will Levis another year. Then they could have gone with Arch Manning next year. Too much of a risk, I'm sure, is what they were thinking in that front office. So I'm glad they picked the guy that they're confident in as of right now with Callahan in there. But they probably hate that TJ Parker wasn't here. And they still need edge. They still need edge since they didn't go Abdul Carter. I honestly like Ruben Bain a little more because he has more of a bag of moves than I've seen from TJ Parker. I think Ruben Bain could have a very big season at Miami. I like the way that his trajectory is going right now. I know that they have him ranked 12th and 14th in ADP, but I like Ruben Bain, me personally, with what I was able to see from his film. At the end of the day, we have to see the season. We have to see what happens this season and what he does for this Hurricanes and how he performs. But assuming it's better than past seasons statistically, I think that this is a clear pick for them at this spot, even with the players on the board. I think Peter Woods is not going to be an edge. Peter Woods is interior. I mean, he can move out to the edge because they had him play out of position and he was able to show up with it. But I think that is going to be like a Dexter Lawrence type of pick, that he is going to be a top pick, but he's not going to be playing on the edge. And I don't think the Titans want to be investing into a defensive interior player as of right now. I think Ruben Bain is the proper investment. He also has a significant amount of plays with great power as well. And he has finesse and power, which I tend to like more, and that's why I was very high on Abdul Carter. And I think if he continues to develop this season, it should be even better than it was in past seasons. So, Ruben Bain Jr. going to the Tennessee Titans, joining his former Miami Hurricane teammate, as the New York Jets are here at this spot. And I'm split on this Jets pick, to be honest with you. If they were at the 4th spot, I don't really expect them to be here. I think that Justin Fields is going to have a good season. I would be comfortable putting a player, because the only reason why they would be at the 4th spot is if their defense, again, doesn't perform. And you need to continue to invest into the defense if that is the scenario. And if you are able to put a player like Peter Woods next to Quinnen Williams, because they are both powerful middle-of-the-line defenders who would be very difficult to stop. But then again, the corner position is still a need And I mean, I think they could invest into it more. I think if they end up having a middle of the line season, Jermon McCoy could be a possibility as well. I like Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee, but at this very moment, with the investments they put into their corners and defensive tackles, I think getting Peter Woods would be a more of an impact for this team to be able to have a solidified defensive line going forward, even if you must move him out to edge possibly. He's able to do it because he played out of position, but I think they would prefer to draft him for the site of having him next to Quinnen Williams on that defensive line. And the New Orleans Saints are here, and probably surprised that the Jets don't go with the QB if they're at this spot at number 4, because that means that Justin Fields did not perform. I can't imagine Justin Fields isn't able to perform. Going back to a familiar face in Garrett Wilson, having a very good running back in Breece Hall, having a solid line that they invested into with Armand Membu, I think they're going to be probably middle of the first round, maybe even later if they end up doing better than I'm expecting. But the New Orleans Saints are just thanking their lucky stars. I mean, I legitimately think that the Saints picked the way that they did this year in preparation for next year's draft. With the uncertainty of Derek Carr and his status, to picking a player like Tyler Shaw over Shedeur Sanders, they have so much open availability at that quarterback position. You can almost predict that they will have the first overall pick this next season. Without a doubt. They could possibly be number 1 just based off of their record. I mean, I'm sure Alvin Kamara is not going to like that. I'm sure he's going to feel like he's wasting his career and things of that nature. But if Jeremiah Smith was in this draft, this would be more of a debate as to who would be this quote-unquote number 1 pick, because I think the Saints are going to be the number 1 pick next year. I really wish that he was able to be eligible this year, but I also love the way that he plays in college football. But we will see him next year in the 2027 way too early mock draft, because I am excited. I'm excited for that draft. But easily, this is Arch Manning. And they will pursue him heavily this next season. I think they let go of everything to be able to get Arch Manning on the team if they're not the number 1 overall pick. Without a doubt in my mind, they could pack up Alvin Kamara. They could pack up whoever the other team wants that is at the number 1 spot. The only team that I could possibly see being number 1 is probably the Browns, because they're so dysfunctional right now. But I don't expect them to go with Arch Manning. I mean, come on. We can't have them going with another QB a year after taking 2 QBs in this draft that we just had. And there's no way at all. There's no way at all. But the Carolina Panthers at the number 6 spot, they put a lot of time and effort into several different positions, and it's noticeable. I think they improved Bryce Young, but wide receiver is no longer a desperate need. They now got Tatario McMillan to play alongside Bryce Young. I'm sure he is ecstatic about that, because, I mean, he had a bunch of wide receiver 2s on the team, if we're being fairly honest. Wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s. He didn't have a clear number 1, and I think Tatario McMillan can be that. I think they're comfortable with the fact of wide receiver not, or just talent positions in general. I think they're good because they have Chuba Hubbard. I think the only thing that I could see other than my pick that I have is right tackle being a possibility at this very moment, but I would rather them go with a defensive back in Jermon McCoy. Jermon McCoy, they have him going at 10th. I don't think he's going to fall that far, to be honest with you. I think a lot of teams need corner in terms of having a corner that could possibly be a star, but Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee, who was a former Oregon State player, he was a lockdown corner all of last year. Ever since transferring, he has great ball skills and phenomenal movement ability. So if he isn't already in the top 10 by the draft next year, I expect the combine to do the trick for him just by his raw athleticism, because I think that's going to be able to show out whenever he shows up to the combine and almost have a... I mean, Jahdae Barron fell in the draft, and I was very surprised by that, especially falling past the Miami Dolphins. But I think that he would have the type of resume of Jahdae Barron, that he is a reliable lockdown corner. and any team would want him, especially with the Panthers because they just re-signed J.C. Horn. They're going to get another young corner to put alongside him. You have to start building up that team in terms of that corner position because they have Dante Jackson outside of J.C. Horn. I don't know. I think they really need to look at the future of that corner position, but easily it is Jermon McCoy for me for the Carolina Panthers as the Las Vegas Raiders at the 7th spot. Their offensive line is going to be a focus this year in terms of the weak spots. I think that you have a superstar running back in Genty now and a brand new QB in Geno Smith, who you could say was top 10 in the NFC. Now, QB should not be a focus in the slightest unless a career-ending injury, God forbid, knock on wood, happens. So I look immediately at that right tackle spot since McCoy is already off the board and is not available in this spot. I would rather go with tackle who is already at the right side of the ball. And Colton Miller is their guy at left tackle, and I think getting Francis... Nope, it's not coming out. Francis out of Miami, who I'm going to learn his name because I have to. I mean, it's my Hurricanes. I need to be able to know him. I am aware of his name. I've just never tried to say it out loud. But my only temptation out of picking Francis for the Raiders, because I think this is a clear and through pick for the Raiders, is Avion Terrell, the younger brother of AJ Terrell. But I need to see that he is legitimate before I start jumping the gun just because of his brother's talent. Just because of what his brother has been able to do in the league. I'm not going to base it off of him. I need to be able to see a little bit more from Terrell coming into this next season to be able to put him maybe even in this top 10 at this point. But Francis, I think, is going to be able to show out at right tackle and just be able to go in very easily for this Las Vegas Raiders team. I think his size is very solid as well. Yeah, 6'6", I think 315. He's very good, very agile. He should be. As the Indianapolis Colts at number 8 just were having a great time at the NFL draft. Tyler Warren fell, and I was not expecting that at all. But he ended up falling, and he went to the Colts, and I think that's exactly what they wanted. I think I saw a video of them watching the draft and seeing Tyler Warren fall to them, and they were just ecstatic. Like, they were as happy as could be, and I would be too. The Bears went with Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. I mean, I get it. They probably want the receiver aspect of him, but you already have... If you wanted another tight end, Tyler Warren was going to be that guy. Because I'm not going with Colston Loveland, who I can't rely on in the run game in terms of being able to block. Tyler Warren can do it all. He can do it all, and I really hope Anthony Richardson doesn't screw this up. I really hope not, because I was very high on Anthony Richardson when he was coming out of the draft and just going into this rookie season. And I really hope that adding this new weapon is going to help him out even more. And I hope that he uses him and utilizes him and uses the blocking as well, and obviously Jonathan Taylor. But I think that the Indianapolis Colts have a very clear pick, and I will tell you, nice and simple. No teasing, no whatever. Anthony Hill Jr. is their guy. Anthony Hill Jr. is their guy. There's nothing more that I would love than, or there's nothing more that I love in general other than a great linebacker prospect. And I was searching for one. I was searching for one all of last year in terms of middle linebacker. And there really wasn't one that I was like, wow, I love this guy. Like, I just couldn't find it. But he is a great box linebacker who is also able to come off the edge and read the play all at the same time. He finds the holes and he can get through with speed and tenacity each and every time, especially when you need him to, and he is a big play player. I love the way that he plays, and I think this is exactly what the Colts need right now, barring another horrible season by Anthony Richardson. But even if they have Riley Leonard, who they drafted in this past draft, who maybe you can look at to be a quarterback temporarily. And I know a lot of people want to say, if Anthony Richardson has a bad season, why don't you go Cade Klubnik? I'm not crazy about the quarterbacks outside of Arch Manning. I'm very aware of Cade Klubnik. I am very aware of him. I'm very aware of his skills and stats and all that good stuff. He had a great season last year, and I expect him to have another one. Drew Aller, need to see some more, but for me, it's very clear that's going to be Anthony Hill Jr. Put him next to Zaire Franklin and have that solidified in the middle of the field and just become a defensive team again for the Colts, as the Dallas Cowboys are at the 9th spot. And honestly, when I first looked at this draft in the Cowboys position, I was ready to give them Jeremiah Love. But remembering that they drafted Jadon Blue out of Texas has me a bit hesitant. I'm not just jumping to get Jaden Love or get Jeremiah Love. I almost mixed the two names. They traded for Milton to be behind Dak. They just traded for George Pickens at wide receiver. Wide receiver, set in stone. I don't know. Jaden Blue could have a very good season, and I think they're going to see if that's possible. I'm considering different things because Klubnik's not on the board for them. Like I said, Milton was traded to the Cowboys, and I think he is, if he gets the opportunity, he will be a very solid starter, and I think a systematic starter, and he'll be able to make some big plays here and there, but I think he'll be able to do what he needs to do as a quarterback for sure. And with that, it leaves a pick that I think corner is out of question because they got Shawan Revel, who I think is going to show out for them, especially behind Trayvon Diggs. They gave Terrence Steele an extension until 2028. So that has me off track of that position as of right now. They got Donovan Smith in this draft, or Donovan in this draft at edge. Or, I'm sorry, I'm confusing two different players because Donovan went to the Vikings, the offensive line prospect, and it was Donovan Ezeruku out of Boston College that went to the Cowboys, who dropped somehow. I don't know how. I really thought that he was going to the Seahawks. I could have put like money that he was going to the Seahawks, but I didn't. It all depends on if Micah signs. I think it all depends on if Micah resigns, and in terms of looking at that, I might just have to go with best player available. And Jeremiah Love is a great running back. And that could be... He could be going this high. And I know we said the same thing about Ashton Jeanty whenever we started going over the mock drafts and things of that. But I like Jeremiah Love going to the Cowboys. I'm sorry. I know they got Blue. The only other player, and the reason why I mentioned the wide receiver position, was I was considering Jordan Tyson for sure, but I'm gonna go Jeremiah Love. I think they're trusting their offensive line for right now. If they start shitting the bed real bad, excuse my language, but if they start shitting the bed real bad, they might have to go Caden Proctor just because they need talent there. And we're going to have to see what Caden Proctor does because, I mean, he didn't have a great season last year. I need him to have a better season. But he also had Jalen Milroe behind him, who basically wanted to run out on every single play, who is now the starting quarterback for the Seahawks at this point. But the 10th overall pick that the Browns were able to get for trading them to the second pick, who ended up being Travis Hunter, to the Jaguars, they have the Jaguars pick being number 10. And I think with them going with Caleb Downs, I think they go with the offensive side of the ball. And I think that having two picks in the top 10 would be absolutely lethal. I think it would be. Travis Hunter being on the Jaguars, though, has me doubting that that's going to happen. Unless Trevor Lawrence just decides not to have a great season. But they signed a left tackle on a one-year deal this past season. And I fully expect them to find their way into acquiring Proctor, since he is the big physical left tackle of this draft. And I think that is just what is sought after in terms of that top guy physically at left tackle, no matter what talent issues or anything, is going to be up there. Caden Proctor is that player in this draft, and hopefully he ends up being the left tackle that we hope he's going to be. but he has insane size and ability. We just need to see him develop. That's it for this upcoming Alabama team. He had the responsibility of protecting Milroe. As I already mentioned, he had some low moments in terms of protecting his blind side, and he had some high moments as a blocker. So we need to see a little bit more consistency, but expecting him to have that consistency, I would think that he goes at this 10th spot to the Cleveland Browns. Moving on to the 11th spot, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who did not go with Donovan Ezeruku. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I'm just going on a whim. The Seattle Seahawks made every sort of investment at the QB position. So, with getting Jalen Milroe, obviously. So we continue to see the slide of Cade Klubnik. I'm sorry for any Clemson fans. I'm sorry to Cade Klubnik stands or whatever. But I think their best case scenario, if Anthony Hill Jr. is not on the board, I would without a doubt go with Kendrick Folk at this position. With his major improvement from his freshman season of having 1 sack and 4 TFLs to having 11 TFLs and 9 sacks, if he continues at this rate, he will be up there with Baines Jr., but we need to see it happen another season to be fully convinced. I hope he doesn't get an injury. I hope none of these players get any injuries, but he has always excelled at the run game, but he has been working to improve his pass rush with different moves that he continues to develop. So that it's bright spots. It's bright spots across the board. But Keldrick Folk out of Auburn is the guy for me going to the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're going to have to invest in that edge position coming up because Leonard Williams is only going to be the edge for so long. I just can't imagine that he's going to be there. Now, the New England Patriots at the 12th spot went Will Campbell. And my last mock draft, I went with a switcheroo, and I was going Will Campbell for the longest, and I ended up taking Tatario McMillan for them. They didn't end up doing that. They took Will Campbell, which is great because Drake May loves him. Will Campbell had a great impression on Patriots fans, but this is a big if. I think there has to be at least one receiver that is going to show out, and whoever it is going to be picked by the Patriots, because I don't expect Stephon Diggs to be productive after this season. I don't expect it. And Tyson led the nation in the final 6 games of the season. He led the nation with 729 yards, while his 4.03 yards per route run was second among Power 4 wideouts. There's only bright spots here, and I think he is the receiver for Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt could have a great season as well. I could see it happening. With that young coach that he has, I think they're going to try to improve his draft stock as much as possible to help him out. But I think even with his shoulder injury, he comes back at the same pace that he was at the end of last season, right before he got injured before the playoffs, and continues it all of this season coming up. I think that the only other way that I could see something is possibly corner, but they signed Carlton Davis. They signed Carlton Davis to be next to Christian Gonzalez. They have Marcus Jones as well. They have a solid 3. They have a very solid 3, so I can't see Avion Terrell going here. I'm going to have Jordan Tyson going at this position to be that wide receiver 1 for Drake May if it ends up being that way, or just develop behind Stephon Diggs and he won't have all that pressure on him. I think regardless they go with wide receiver for sure. But the Los Angeles the Los Angeles Rams at this position with the Atlanta Falcons pick, which for some reason they have at the 13th spot. I don't know why. But I think they go with the potential corner or the CB2 of this draft. And I like Avion Terrell in terms of his trajectory right now. I do like it. And he showed out and was top 4 in run defense amongst corners, with his 3 forced fumbles being second. He plays with amazing physicality, which, I mean, AJ Terrell has, but I don't see him use it. and he has the speed to keep up with the receiver in man coverage. So you have a guy that can play the run game as a corner and be able to hold his own in man. I like this fit. I like the need that the Rams are going to have at corner. I think they're going to look at it and they're going to have to go with some sort of corner at this position. Maybe they want Jermon McCoy, but he's not here. And I don't expect them to trade up at all. If he ends up dropping, they'll take him. If not, they'll take Avion Terrell. I think he could have a good season for Clemson. I just need to see it. I do need to see it. But the Pittsburgh Steelers at the 14th spot. The Steelers' QB situation is in absolute shambles. I don't know what in the hell the Steelers are doing. I don't know. And it's been in shambles ever since Big Ben retired. It's like they lost all competency after they drafted Big Ben at QB in terms of that QB room. They should have gotten Shedeur, even with the character concerns, because of the head coach that they have. I've been saying this for like 4 mock drafts before the actual draft itself. I said Shedeur Sanders should go to the Steelers. I understand a lot of people have character concerns about him. Mike Tomlin is like a father figure to that entire team. And especially for the quarterback I would expect him to be, with the guy that had a father in the league. It was a perfect situation, and they could have got him over and over and over again. But I digress. They went with a great QB prospect regardless. I think Will Howard will surprise a lot of people. I think he will. I think Will Howard will come in and hold his own. Now, if Klubnik just absolutely shows out this season, this whole Clemson team is a bit up in the air for me in terms of what I need to see. If he just shows out with minimal interceptions, minimal bad plays, insane amount of touchdowns. I mean, he had, I think it was like top 3 in touchdowns last season. Cade Klubnik could possibly be the pick here for the Steelers. I'm not going to go with Cade Klubnik. I think the greater fit is going Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano has faced questions with his size and ability to play on the edge in terms of the tackle positions. And so in this scenario, I think they would pick him, but instead of playing at right tackle, they would move him to right guard and fill that hole that is gaping open. Pause. But fill that hole, and where it's been like the only question in terms of being able to have their offensive line solidified at this point. So I think Spencer, who I think has some reps at right guard, no, just right tackle, but I think he would have to move inside with his size, being 6'5", 304. I don't know. I think he would be much more comfortable at right guard. But the Miami Dolphins, another pick where I've been split between two. The Miami Dolphins made no investments into the offensive line except for Jonah from Arizona, which I think is going to be great as an interior offensive lineman if that ends up being what it is, because they have that on the depth chart. The only offensive line upgrade that is feasible here is going to be a center out of Florida, being Jake Slaughter. Now, he only has 1 sack, that down the middle. But I think the defense is falling apart a bit too quick for them to not look at it. I think they have to look at it. Corner is going to be losing Jalen Ramsey at some point soon. Some team is going to fork it up and pay his contract, because that's the Dolphins' issue. They don't want to pay any of his contract if they trade him. And it's going to be the weakest spot on the team. It's going to be the weakest spot. They let Javon Holland walk. They didn't get any sort of Malachi Starks or anything like that. I think their best case scenario here, I wanted them to get Jahdae Barron or Will Johnson, and they could have gotten both. They really could have gotten both, but they didn't. And they could have just restarted this entire secondary completely clean. They could have got Jahdae Barron in the first. They could have seen the slide for Will Johnson, trade up from their position in the second round, and get Will Johnson if they wanted to feel comfortable about it. Give up a couple day 3 picks. I think it could have been good, but they ended up getting Jonah later on. So I don't know. I think that would have been great. I love Kenneth Grant. Don't get me wrong. I love Kenneth Grant, and I've spoke very highly of him. But Jahdae Barron being passed on made no sense at all. It made no sense at all. But I think they're going to have to go corner. And it's going to be... Actually... Is it corner? It is corner. I'm sorry. I was confusing him with another name. But Malik Muhammad out of Texas is just a pick of need. Pick of straight need. And I think Malik Muhammad is very solid. And I think he can be even better now that Jahdae Barron is out and he has to step up as the CB1. I think he's going to. This is going to be another opportunity for them to get a Texas Longhorn. I don't know if they have something against the Texas Longhorn, or Longhorns, but I think Malik Muhammad is going to be their pick at that spot. Again, don't really understand why they didn't invest in corner or offensive line, obviously outside of Jonah again. But Calvin Banks Jr., I don't know. But the Chicago Bears at the 16th spot. They are more than likely going to have a better season than this pick shows. And I'm going to be very honest about that. They made some good moves. They made some good picks this season with Ben Johnson. They were able to do what they needed to do to protect Caleb Williams. They did what they needed to do in terms of being able to solidify the offense. And I think now their thing is going to be defense in terms of what they need to look at. Now, do I think it's going to be a desperate need? Maybe not. But the fit for me here is going Mateo out of Oregon at edge. And I understand that they have his rank all messed up and whatever. LT Overton, I love. Don't get me wrong at all. I just think the fit is a little bit better for Mateo to come in. He has a swim move of death. He has a swim move of absolute death from what I was able to see. He utilizes it like no other. What we have to face in terms of LT Overton is that he does not have a significant amount of speed, and it bothers me in comparison to what Mateo has with his speed and his quickness, while also having the power. LT Overton just has straight power, but I'm not seeing him move. And I think he makes his jump throughout the season and becomes a top 5 edge rusher in this class because of it. Passing up all of these guys who are all very talented, but I think Mateo is probably going to be the surprise jump at some point this season. As the Arizona Cardinals, to me, I think by the time the season ends, we're going to see the Arizona Cardinals still have the same need, and that is interior offensive line. I think that that's going to be definitely something that they have to do, and they have shown their commitment to the offensive tackles for sure, and they have a solid foundation, but now their center seems to be someone who they can get out of their contract with this offseason coming up, and Jake Slaughter could come and provide some fresh talent at the center position. Hopefully he ends up performing to this level that they have his ADP at. I don't rely very heavily on their ADP on PFF. All respect to them, but I like to have my own opinion in these scenarios. But Jake Slaughter went up against some of the best defensive tackles in college football. You had Walter Nolan, Alfred Collins, Shamar Turner, and he just performed exceptionally well. And I think if he's able to have that same type of trajectory going into this season, I think that he is going to be picked at the 17th spot for sure. For this Arizona Cardinals team that just really needs to keep going with that offensive line. As the Minnesota Vikings at the 18th spot, who took Donovan Jackson in the first round, clearly was their guy because they picked him before I think most teams would have, in my humble opinion, I guess you can say. I liked it, but they need to replace positions that have been key on their defense. And while they don't have the best players at edge other than Grenard, and I'm talking about long term, I know that they got Dallas Turner. Still need to see some more from him. I still think they need to look at the backfield of the defense where Hitman Harrison Smith is not getting any younger, and he's 36 years old. I expect him to retire soon, and it's a perfect position to draft basically a clone of Harrison Smith. I mean, when I was watching Dylan out of Purdue, I can't imagine a better fit for a team and a player. And he excels at free safety while he was still manageable at strong safety. He performs far better at free safety. When they had him play at strong safety, he did struggle, but he performs so much better at free safety because of his speed and ball skills. And we could say he is one of the best center fielders and athletes in the nation in college football, for sure. But I think he would be going to the Minnesota Vikings. As the Denver Broncos at the 19th spot, they made some commitments to the defensive side, taking Jahdae Barron. Obviously, love it. And they made some commitments in terms of getting Greenlaw and Hufanga from the 49ers. And they have that pairing with PS2 now. I don't see the defense being looked at in the slightest in the first round next year for them. I can't see it. Although this wide receiver class is just piss poor as of right now in terms of just raw talent. I like the transfer out of Georgia Tech, who is now a Auburn Tiger, although they haven't fixed it on PFF as of right now, which happens. I mean, I messed up one prospect last year who transferred, and I ended up saying the wrong team. But the Broncos need someone legitimate next to Sutton, other than a tight end, like Evan Ingram. Their best option at this spot is going to be Eric Singleton Jr., who I hope will have a good season, now being a transfer. He excels at catching the deep ball, which the Broncos could use a more consistent receiver at. And Sean Payton seems to be confident in Pat Bryant being the Michael Thomas type, so that's just slants for days and slant boy 2.0. I think Eric Singleton is going to be the pick here for the Denver Broncos, as the Houston Texans are on the board now. And although they made some significant changes at offensive line, which I'll give it to them. They did their thing. And, I mean, there's still some holes, but I'll give it to them for effort. A for effort. We'll clap it up for them. But I think if Jake Slaughter was here, they would take him. I think so, but he's not. He got taken by the Cardinals, so shit happens in the draft. I can see them investing into the middle of the field on the defensive side, which has a lot of uncertainty at that spot and honestly inconsistency. I think their best pick here would to pick up Deontay Lawson out of Alabama, who has been tremendous at reading the QB's eyes during a play and being able to take on a block with his size at 6'2" and 239 pounds. This would be in the defense's best interest and going forward, because it gives them more of an identity as a team to be able to take a linebacker like that and hopefully a leader, while they made significant picks on the offensive side, getting Jaden Higgins and Ursary out of Minnesota. But I like Deontay Lawson as a fit for the Houston Texans, as the Green Bay Packers are here on the board. And it's going to be back-to-back Alabama picks. And as much as, again, they're not high on him, they don't have him high. PFF has times that their ADP, or their ranks actually, just switch up completely, which is fine. I mean, everything's fluid throughout the college football season as we see it. But with the trajectory that Damani Jackson was on last year, I think he could be a very standout corner this year. And this is probably a surprise pick of the draft. But I'm going to already pick it just so you know that I'm very confident in Damani Jackson going to the Packers. But he knows when to play the receiver. His awareness is very good. And he made some big plays for Alabama this past year. And even in the run game. I mean, you want these type of guys that are able to do it both. And he plays on the outside. They had him play at the nickel corner to blitz on a run. And I mean, you can't really go wrong with him. You can't. He could be a Teron Johnson type of player, or just a very reliable corner wherever you put him. And things may change, but I like him a lot for a team that could be losing Jair Alexander this next season. And he has the potential to possibly be a CB1 if things end up going his way this year in college football and then going to this team. I do like AJ Harris. I saw AJ Harris from Penn State, but I just think that he benefited a lot from his teammates. From what I was able to see on film, he benefited a lot from the defensive line being able to put pressure on players, and he executed. He executed to the best of his ability, and he did it at a very high level, but it wasn't really plays that he made himself, if that makes sense. So might see AJ Harris drop a little, maybe not too much, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 22nd spot. I was very high on this guy last year. He ended up staying in college. I'm not sure if he had draft eligibility last year. Now that I think about it, I don't know. But LT Overton was up there as one of my favorite players at Alabama with Jahad Campbell. I think with more reliance on him this season, he could shine even more for this Alabama team from after transferring from Texas A&M to Alabama. He is able to play anywhere on the line with his 6'5", 280-pound frame and can bring some well-needed help to Vita Vea, who has been really the only player on that defensive line having consistency. And I mean, they brought Hassan Reddick. Do I expect that to be a long-term thing? No. I think it was a one-year deal after all. So LT Overton, I think, is a long-term investment for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. As the Los Angeles Chargers, who got Amarion Hampton after signing Najee Harris, I don't know. But I like Amarion Hampton a lot more than Najee, and I really hope they don't stunt his growth just because they want to utilize Najee. They might do it like a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type of thing, that Amarion Hampton is like the Jahmyr Gibbs and he's like a show-out running back bell cow that you can just put in and have him play the whole entire game, and then the power back is Najee Harris and David Montgomery type of comparison. I mean, I love David Montgomery a lot more than Najee. But they got their guy at running back. And I haven't seen Asante Samuel come back. He's still a free agent as of right now, I think. As of right now. With that in mind, I think no matter who is at this spot, they're going to go with corner. And AJ Harris is here for the taking. And some people may be more favorable of him than the other cornerbacks that I've already taken on the board. I just still, like I said, really benefited off of his teammates, but hopefully he proves me wrong this upcoming season at Penn State and he just shows out. But the Washington Commanders at this spot, with Abdul Carter's departure from Penn State, we could see Danny Dennis Sutton really step up this next season. He may not even be at this spot, but we're having very high hopes for a lot of different players. I think that without Abdul Carter to take a lot of the limelight, he is going to be able to do his thing and at least be a round one pick is what I meant to say. He had one interception, so he dropped back in coverage. So maybe you can have him drop back in coverage from time to time, you know. But I'm more comfortable with him being at the edge. I think that he won't be Abdul Carter level of impressive, but he's going to be impressive enough to be really respected as a prospect in this draft specifically. As the Cincinnati Bengals are here at this spot, who picked Jamar Stewart, which some of us expected with the possibility of the departure of Trey Hendrickson. I think they're anticipating a departure from him, to be honest with you. And I expect them to continue to focus on the defensive line since the rest of the defense is manageable at best. Tyreek Sapp is a player that I like. I do like Tyreek Sapp out of Florida. Now, who actually has no relation to Warren Sapp, which I came to find out while I was doing my research. But he's listed at edge. I think he would be better moving inside in terms of Tyreek Sapp. But I think at this position for the Cincinnati Bengals, they would go with a different player. And There's Tyreek Sapp. I was trying to look for his name because I could have sworn that he was very highly regarded by PFF. Caleb Banks, I think, would be the guy because I think they would rather go with defensive interior, and Caleb Banks is already playing on the inside. With the assumption that things get worked out in Cincinnati, I'm going to go with Caleb Banks. And I'm hoping that Trey Hendrickson stays because that's a very good fit for both of them. But he is a staggering 6'5", 325 pounds, and he could fill the middle of that Bengals defense. And they can finally move on from B.J. Hill and their purgatory that they've been in for having 1 year contract, 1 year contract, 1 year contract. They get Caleb Banks. They can let B.J. Hill move on, and they have their defensive interior player going forward. Now, the Rams have a second pick in the first round because they were able to utilize their first-round pick this past year and get a first-round pick out of it, which a lot of people were surprised that the Falcons gave up their pick this year coming up in terms of being able to move back. I guess they're very high on James Pierce Jr. They wanted to get him. But the Rams at this spot, I think they're just very happy because Cade Klubnik is still on the board, and I'm going to make it nice and easy for you Clemson fans. I'm not going to keep teasing you about it. But the idea of Cade Klubnik being at the 26th spot is probably not going to happen. Let's be honest. If he has the season that we expect him to have, he's going to be a top 10 pick. Maybe not top 5. I think there's a lot more raw talent at other positions. But he was put up there with limited company in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and having 36 plus touchdowns as a junior. And it should be a great match if they want him to develop behind Matt Stafford and not be as pressured to be a starting quarterback immediately for a team when they have a seasoned veteran like Stafford. I think Drew Aller might be in the conversation, but as of right now, I like Cade Klubnik a lot more to be able to come in, develop, and then step in whenever he needs to. I don't think it's going to be much of a rush. I think it's just going to be a pick of investment and not of absolute need at this very moment. But I like Klubnik going to the Rams and being behind Matthew Stafford. I think he retires after next season, which would probably be ideal for both parties. As the Detroit Lions are at this spot, which I would not be surprised if the Lions took the replacement of the future for Jared Goff. Although he's still fairly young. I don't see them going as far as they want with Goff at the helm as high as their highs are as a team. For the time being, I'm going to go with Tyreek Sapp out of Florida. But the Lions should have gone with edge for depth in this draft, but they decided to go with Tyleik Williams. I get it. Great run defender, which I mean is good. I just don't think he was a first round pick. I don't think so, but to each their own. Tyreek Sapp has the size to be able to move inside if necessary. Since he is listed at edge, I think he will just be able to show up as a depth piece, maybe. They probably won't rely on him too much in comparison to an Aiden Hutchinson and things of that nature, but he has the versatility and had 8 sacks this past season, so I hope he continues. But the 28th pick is the San Francisco 49ers, and the offensive line of theirs has only gotten worse and worse and worse. But we still have yet to see them re-sign Brock Purdy. I don't know if they're going to give him the money that he wants. They might tell him to go test free agency, see where his value is, and since people assume he is as good as he is because of the 49ers scheme, they might win from that. They might get him on a discount, or somebody else signs him. We may never know because we still haven't seen them re-sign him, but supposedly they aren't close to closing a deal in the slightest for Brock Purdy. So that gives me even more of a reason to go with Drew Aller out of Penn State. Drew Aller needs to work on some fundamentals, which I think that's the reason why he went back to college. I'm sure he's going to be working on it, and I think he's going to continue to have to work on it when he gets to the NFL. With another year under his belt, this would be about the range that I would expect him to be at. And I think another team would pay Brock Purdy if they need a quarterback. But if they would go offensive line, it would probably be Blake Miller. I think out of Clemson. Yes, Clemson. I thought I confused him with somebody in a past draft, but yes, Blake Miller out of Clemson. But again, bit of a reach, I guess you can say. Drew Aller is more of the best player available and their situation if Brock Purdy is not on a re-signed contract. But moving on from them, the Kansas City Chiefs at the 29th spot got their guy in Josh Simmons. Which it's funny because they traded with the Eagles and they were very candid about what they were going to pick because they wanted to get Josh Simmons, but if they're able to get some, like one more pick out of trading down one spot for the Eagles to confirm that they're going to get Jahad Campbell, they told him we're going defense. The Chiefs sent that trade through immediately because they knew that they were getting Josh Simmons, who somehow fell, which I guess I get, but I don't expect them to pay Trey Smith this next season. He's on a franchise tag. I don't expect them to be. After his salary cap, or at the salary cap that they're at, they can't really afford to pay him. So they need to look at this draft coming up. And I think Trey Smith could even go to a team like the 49ers. I would expect them to pay for an offensive lineman, an interior offensive lineman, at the magnitude that Trey Smith is. So I think they move on from him. And the reason why Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like Shedeur Sanders at Colorado is because of that interior offensive line. Because they held their own for the majority of the season. And Thuney, Humphrey, and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith were that unit. Now they traded Thuney to the Bears, and they're probably not going to re-sign Trey Humphrey, and then it will just be Josh Simmons and Creed Humphrey at that point, who are reliable. I think they go interior offensive line. I'm going to be fairly honest about it, and I think they are just going to keep having to go through this circus of always going offensive line in the first round, but that's just what it is with the team that they have. They have the talent in terms of wide receiver, tight ends, and running back, and obviously quarterback. But I think that they need to be able to keep this offensive line solid. The only other pick that I can see, just because they have so many expiring contracts at that position, is corner. McDuffie, a lot of different guys at that corner position have expiring contracts, not re-signed. So that's the only other way. Chandler Rivers out of Duke would be a possibility, but as of right now, I'm going to go Armaj Reed Adams out of Texas A&M and have their offensive line keep being as solid as it is and hopefully be better. As a football analyst, I don't want the Chiefs to be good. I don't want the Chiefs to be good. But if I'm picking for the Chiefs, I would want my offensive line to be better than most. So the Philadelphia Eagles got a great pick with Jahad Campbell. And they lost a lot of people on their defensive line this past offseason. Josh Sweat going to the Cardinals. Milton Williams going to the Patriots. Both getting massive bags in other places. Again, great talent at Jahad Campbell, but they need a true defensive end that they know is going to be their guy at that position. And what I've seen from Mikhail Kamara is a perfect fit for this Eagles team going forward. And I think that in any scenario, he's the guy for them late in the draft, late in the first round at that. But Mikhail Kamara, a very solid player. I think they're going to feel the hurt of losing those guys this past offseason, not paying them. I mean, I don't think they could have, to be honest with you. Maybe Josh Sweat would have been the one to pick, or Milton Williams at that, just because he's a little bit younger. But not my not my issue, not my team. I'm just drafting for what their needs are. As the Baltimore Ravens had some trouble in certain areas, and one of those areas which they got a lot of heat for is wide receiver. The Ravens tend to draft good receivers, but they end up being shorter. Not tall, just short as hell. And Exhibit A is Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, great wide receiver, just very short. And if he faces a tall corner, he's going to be struggling unless he just outruns him. In this draft, I want them to shoot for a bigger and more reliable receiver in contrast to the big receivers from the past. At the moment, they have DeAndre Hopkins. That's great for them. That's fantastic. I think DeAndre Hopkins will be good for the season. Maybe not stand out, but he'll be reliable enough. And I think that this upcoming season, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State is going to be able to get more of a limelight that Emeka Egbuka got, because Emeka Egbuka went to a team that nobody expected, first of all. But I think he has a lot more upside than people give him, but he has a very high floor as well. And I think that's going to be the Carnell Tate situation for the Baltimore Ravens going forward. Very tall, very lengthy. I think that he is going to be very good this upcoming season next to Jeremiah Smith. As the Buffalo Bills is their prediction on PFF for, I'm not saying it out loud to jinx it, but, But the Bills made a significant number of investments at the defensive line, and especially on the interior as well. They had some great pickups with TJ Sanders for the run game, Deion Walker as well, and they got Landon Jackson on the edge. On top of that, obviously, all of the picks that they had, or all of the signings that they had in the offseason. Joey Bosa and some players I got suspended. I won't speak of them right now. They re-signed Damar Hamlin, but he is a walking target in the pass game, and it irks me that they brought him back in terms of just as a team. I understand the impact that he has, the captain effect, whatever you want to convince yourself about Brandon Beane. But Michael Tafe out of Texas. Taylor Rapp is good as well. I think Taylor Rapp would stay. I think Damar Hamlin would get bumped down if Michael Tafe is the guy, who also was a walk-on. Let me convince the Buffalo Bills fans real quick. This guy had no scholarship. He came to Texas, he walked on, and he had a fantastic year. A great year. He played alongside Andrew Makua. He may have gotten some limelight taken away because he was playing next to Andrew. Now he's going to have that backfield to himself, or be able to show himself out in his talent. It should only be better for Tafe, and it makes sense for him to go to Buffalo in every aspect possible. I think the fit would be tremendous. But that is going to do it for my way too early mock draft. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you did. Let me know your opinions down in the comments below. This may have not been as traditional as what you've seen on social media. I think a lot of those accounts that make those are just literally trying to put a post up. They don't even think about their draft picks because they're just putting QB. I'm not doing that. I put thought behind every single one of these picks, and 3 straight Alabama players. I don't even think about that really in terms of the back-to-back-to-back situation, but it could happen. It definitely could happen, and I could see it happening going forward. But I like this draft. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. But while you're down there, please like so more people can see it, so we can have more of an audience whenever the mock drafts come later on. Hopefully I'll be able to get some content out later on, but I might wait till the mock draft season comes back to be able to do so, or the college football season at that, and bring these mock drafts back when that happens. But also, while you're down there, subscribe if you want to see these mock drafts going forward and moving forward. I think that they're only going to be getting better and better and better, because I'm only going to have more and more time to watch this film now, and it's going to be great. And I'm very, very excited for this upcoming college football season and NFL season. I just can't wait for football to be back, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.